An Ontario father is calling for bail reform after his son was critically injured in a Brampton crash. It was allegedly caused by a 5-time repeat impaired driver, but that driver was released on bail shortly after the incident.
I don't understand what the thinking there was. Like I say, my son's going to be here for probably months, if we're lucky. And this guy was out the next day, enjoying his family, doing what he does every day, and potentially putting his little incident behind him. So we're very disappointed.
Riz Arshad says he'd like people to reach out to their MPs to demand bail reform. Peel Regional Police said the accused, Kushal Kazarim, was released on bail on the condition he wouldn't drive a motor vehicle. At the time of the crash on July 5th, police said that he had 5 previous impaired driving convictions dating back to 2010. He was also on 3 separate lifetime driving bans. All right, let's get some analysis on this story from Kyla Lee, a criminal defense lawyer at Acumen Law Corporation. And you do deal with drivers who are charged with impaired driving. And so you have a father here whose son was critically injured, who hears that the accused in this case is a 5-time repeat drunk driver, and he can't believe this driver was out on bail. What's your perspective as someone who understands how this system works?
Even though this person has a history and they're a 5-time repeat offender, on this incident, they're not facing a reverse onus on bail. They're presumed to be innocent. This is treated as though they are innocent, and the burden is on the Crown to justify why they should be held in detention based on this case and that individual. So
you mentioned reverse onus. Law has been changed over time so that there's certain cases where an accused, even though they're presumed innocent, has to prove that they should be released on bail. So that involves some violent crimes, I guess, but not impaired driving. So this father feels impaired driving should be included.
And I understand why the father feels impaired driving should be included, but because impaired driving is very prevalent and it can happen in a wide variety of circumstances, including very tragic ones like this, but also very minor ones where people are, for example, sleeping in their vehicle. If we start to require everybody who's arrested and charged with impaired driving to have a bail hearing and to prove why they should be released, our jails are going to be overflowing.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point, right? We have this one case that is obviously heartbreaking for not just the father, but I think a lot of people who would hear this story, and you don't necessarily change the law because of this one terrible case. And I know you don't know the details of the accused here, but just speaking generally, and as somebody who has experience dealing with impaired drivers, feels to me like if you are a repeat offender and impairment reduces one's judgment, what is the way to deal with that to try to keep people safe?
The way that the courts try to deal with it to keep people safe is to look at what are the least restrictive sanctions somebody can be released on that still protects the public. So preventing them from getting in the driver's seat of a motor vehicle, potentially putting up non-conditions related to alcohol use or being out of their house after using alcohol. Those are things that are going to protect the public without completely eliminating somebody's liberty.
Yeah, and I don't know how much about this you know, but I was recently talking to somebody with, I think, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and they were saying one of the most promising things that is coming down the line is devices that might eventually be put in every car to prevent people from driving if they're impaired.
Yes, right now there are interlock devices that can be put in cars if a person is ordered to have them by the government or if they decide they want to get one. But there has been legislation in other countries. Even the United States had a bill that passed this, although it hasn't been implemented, to make alcohol detection mandatory in all vehicles. So this could be a thing of the future.
Let me finish by asking you a question that I asked the person with Mothers Against Drunk Driving, but from your perspective as a criminal defense lawyer, we all agree, obviously, that impaired driving is dangerous, that it's continues to be a problem. We need to eliminate it. What do you suggest we do?
I think that there's no real way to eliminate impaired driving until we do have something in the vehicle that prevents you from starting it if you have alcohol in your body. That's going to be the only way. All
right. Well, real pleasure. When we did the old News Network show from here back in 2012, you were a frequent guest, and it's nice having you on this program. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me back.
Kyla Lee, criminal defense lawyer at Acumen Law Corporation.